children are children, and I'm not a child anymore. And no, but
I beg to differ. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, and you're listening to the Two Mikes on the warm-up. So that was it then. After 10 games, nearly 6 weeks of rugby, the British and Irish Lions will return home with nothing. Not the shame of defeat, not the thrill of victory, but an extremely underwhelming draw. It feels very much like unfinished business. What was the point of both captains holding up the cup? Why couldn't they have had some kind of penalty shootout? We've got some ideas about that. And what about Kieran Reid? Porky's not very happy about what he did at the end of the game. 08717 22 33 Don't worry, we're not just talking about rugby. We've got football to talk about after Porky broke the news of Wayne Rooney returning to Everton last night. And we'll bring you more exclusive transfer stories from Porky's parlour. And we'll have a 1-minute moan as well. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good afternoon to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good afternoon to you, Mike. And that word you used in your opener there, underwhelming, sums it all up.
Yes.
I mean, what a load of rubbish.
Right.
I mean, the point is, you know, we travel halfway around the world for one of the most iconic sporting series that ever happened.
For 6 weeks.
For 6 weeks we're there, and at the end of it all, did you see the faces of the players as they ended? They all didn't know what to do.
They didn't know what to do. I mean, why is there no facility for some kind of penalty shootout?
Unbelievable.
Surely there has to be a result after the end of it.
Sport is all about emotion, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of that, we should have had the emotion of, you know, a battling but hopeless quest to win.
Yeah, bloody but unbowed,
the series.
or something like that.
Bloody but unbowed, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, a glorious defeat or something like that.
Yes.
Or we should have been now celebrating victory and be able to come home without an aeroplane floating so high.
Exactly,
but
with some kind of a trophy.
Neutrality. Now, what you've just said about why wasn't it decided?
Yeah.
I've been to 2 World Cup finals, okay?
Yes, right.
If at the end, supposing we're talking about the one in the Olympic Stadium in Berlin in 2006 in Germany.
Yeah.
If at the end it was 2-2.
Yes.
And the players just said, oh, that's it, ref blows
ref blows his whistle.
and they shook hands with each other.
Yeah.
And what should we do now? I tell you what, why don't the two of us go up and get the World Cup?
Yeah, and just hold it up together.
The two captains hold up the World
That's a
Cup
great
together.
idea. What a load of old cobblers.
How ridiculous. Why on earth is there nobody in football who hasn't got the brains to say, look, what we do is we have 5 penalty kicks on each side. And by the way, the penalty kicks in rugby would be more spectacular even than football.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have a goalkeeper, though, would you?
You wouldn't have a goalkeeper, but what you'd do is you would put an arc 40 yards out, right? Yeah. And players would kick from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the arc.
But would it be everyone except for the kicker taking the kicks?
Yes, it would.
Because if you let the kicker take the kicks, it might go on forever.
Absolutely right. The kicker's banned. It'd have to be anybody else in the team but the kicker, OK?
Although some teams, and I would say the All Blacks and, of course, the British and Irish Lions, would have more than one kicker.
Yeah, they would. But, I mean, wouldn't that at least, you know, give the fans and the audience worldwide, they're, biting their finger, how's it going to end now? Oh, you know, it's make or break. Oh, do or die.
I've got a much better idea, and I want to hear from the people out there as to which one they prefer. I would get a guy with the ball on the halfway line, right, holding the ball, running towards the posts, and a guy under the posts trying to stop him from scoring.
That's rubbish.
That's not rubbish.
Yeah,
that's a brilliant idea.
That would just be physical and brutal. That would be nothing.
It would show a piece of skill because the guy would be able to run in any direction
drop
he
his
wanted
shoulder
to,
and dodge past him and all that.
And if the guy tackles him, then he doesn't get the points.
Well, it's better than no results.
Well, it would be.
Because unfortunately, this is a massive series which people have been talking about for 4 years, which, as you quite rightly say, went on for 6 weeks, which involved people from this country and New Zealand spending hundreds of millions of pounds. To nothing. It came to nothing.
Exactly.
It might as well not have happened.
It might as well have not happened. I mean, we heard from Georgie Bingham and the guys down under that this has only happened once before. In South Africa. I think they said it was in 1954 or something like that. But, I mean, you can't have a massive series.
No, you can't.
Which is all about,
undecided.
A triumph of one nation over another. And just have it end up as a draw. It's nonsensical.
It's absolute load of baloney.
I don't know of any other sport where this can happen.
No, I can't. Now, the other thing that really got my goat was... Now, the guy who's the captain of New Zealand, that's...
Kieran Reid.
Kieran Reid, of course. What on earth was he doing with a crying baby in his hands when he's first interviewed after this, and where he had to explain why actually there's no result, and no, I'm sorry, I don't know why there's no result, and I'm the captain of a team that hasn't got a result, and we haven't won the series, but we haven't lost the series, but I've got a crying baby in my hands, so I'm sorry, I can't really talk to you.
And I mean, people have been on Twitter,
rubbish.
because you tweeted out about this a bit earlier, people have been on Twitter saying, that's ridiculous, and showing pictures of Wayne Wayne Rooney with his kids on the football pitch and all that.
Yeah, not at the end of the World Cup final.
But not at the end of the World Cup final. Well, that's because he's never been in one. But
No.
I mean, the point is that you only do that if you're a winner.
Exactly.
If you've won something, you have a certain leeway with what you do at the end of the game, and you might want to bring your kids on. You've just won the league, or you've just won the FA Cup or something. And nobody's won anything here.
No,
nobody has won anything.
You know, what's his name from Chelsea did it? Dennis
Terry.
Wise. No, Dennis Wise. Dennis Wise.
John Terry's done it, I think, as well, though.
Well, if he has, he wasn't the first. Dennis Wise took his baby up the old Wembley steps to collect, I think it was the League Cup.
Yeah.
Because I remember he had to pick... League Cup's got 3 handles.
Right.
So he had to pick up one of the 3 handles.
Was this when he was playing for
Chelsea? Yeah, he was captain of Chelsea and holding the baby in the other hand.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I can understand being overcome with emotion in that sort of situation.
Yes.
But how could the captain of the All Blacks be overcome with emotion at his failure? I just don't understand it.
Well, I mean, you might say that it is their failure because they're at home. They're expected to win. They're supposed to be. In fact, somebody rather unkindly has said, is there now a 2 Mikes jinx?
Well,
because it's no longer a Porky jinx, because we've both been saying that it's supposed to be the best team of all time in any sport, the All Blacks. But it turns out that actually they're not.
No, they're not.
Because they can't beat the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah. How do you feel about the humiliation of you predicting that it would be a 3-0 whitewash to the All Blacks, and they would have beaten the Lions by a score greater than 15 after the first one?
I did say quite correctly at the time that I felt that the Lions would get the best result they'd ever had in that first test when they lost by 15. I thought they were going to get slaughtered. I thought that they would have no chance against the All Blacks.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the All Blacks, to be honest, because I don't think the Lions got particularly much better.
Yeah.
The All Blacks kind of lost the plot.
Yes.
Suddenly got one guy sent off in the second test.
That's right.
Which hadn't happened for 30 years or something.
That's right. Listen,
madness. I don't call it humiliation though, because I can't get it right all the time.
No, you're absolutely right. An immediate text here, and it's we've been thinking too hard.
Yeah.
This is from Daniel. He says, all very well, fellas, putting in these ideas for sorting it out. What about half an hour's extra time?
Yeah.
Well, what about half an hour's extra time?
I mean,
totally
apparently
agree.
it was in. They did that in 2003, according to Daniel.
Did they?
30 minutes extra time. But if they did it in 2003, why didn't they do it now?
Exactly.
We want to hear the reasons for this. 08717 223344. Best text I've seen in a long time from Paul in Yorkshire. He says, my 6-year-old wants to talk to the 2 Mikes. He disagrees with them.
Really?
Well, get him on.
Get him on the phone.
Get him on the phone,
we'll
Paul.
Have a
get
talk.
him on.
But we do want to talk to you.
I'm pretty sure we can beat him with our power of our intellect.
That's right. Well, combined, yes.
This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mikes. I've got a text here from somebody who doesn't give a name, unfortunately. In Reed's defence, he had his child with him when receiving his 100th cap, not the trophy.
So what?
On a separate point, the text, Ray, 2003, it was settled by extra time because it was a World Cup final, not a test match.
Right, OK. Well, why didn't they do that in this line series? Surely somebody's got the nous to put into place something to decide the series, because it's so underwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard Georgie, who's been our resident broadcaster down there, describing the end of it.
He's been anchoring it all.
Yeah, as bizarre.
Yeah, well, it was bizarre.
Yeah, but it needs, it needs examination.
It shouldn't be bizarre.
It shouldn't be bizarre, and people should have made a plan to make sure it didn't end in a stalemate, because the players at the end of the game, I couldn't believe it. They were neither smiling nor scowling.
No.
They were neither elated nor depressed.
Yes.
They were simply shaking hands with each other and walking off the pitch like they'd just been in a practice match.
Well, Sam Warburton
and
said
that was
it's
the third test in the line
Sam
series.
Warburton said himself it's a bit of a difficult one for the players.
Yeah.
Well, then go and do something about it.
And I think he used the word anticlimax as well.
Anticlimax.
Huge anticlimax.
That was the understatement of the year.
Yeah.
Ray Hill says cricket test series can end in a draw after 5 matches. Nobody complains. Well, that's cricket. That's different.
Exactly.
This is not cricket. But speaking of cricket, let's talk to John Norman, who is, of course, down at the first test between England and South Africa at Lord's. John, very good afternoon to you.
Well, good afternoon to you guys too. There is a big difference as well between cricket and rugby insofar that if at the end of, say, this series, it ends up all square, the team that holds the trophy, i.e. England, will keep it.
That's like the Ryder Cup, isn't it? If that ends in a draw and you already have it, then you've effectively won.
Exactly. So at the end of this series, if it ends up 2-2, it will be England elated and South Africa deflated.
Right. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Well, I think so.
I mean, because nobody's
and it's not
complaining
often
about...
that cricket makes more sense than another sport, let's be fair.
That's true. And I must say, reading the papers this morning, it makes no sense at all that they're suddenly starting to ban people for swearing.
Well, this is an absolute... it's a joke, actually.
It is.
Look at the game of cricket and all the problems that it has. On-field attitude, I would say, comes way down the list. You know, on day one, the members here and the paying public shelling out, around £100 a ticket and more, and some, were robbed of 3 or 4 overs because the players couldn't get through the overs quick enough. Nothing happens. There's no penalty. Fast forward a day, and Rabada so delighted that he's got rid of the dangerous flame-haired Ben Stokes. OK, he utters a word that maybe he shouldn't have done. Banned for a game. Now, how does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense at all. You wonder whether elements of life as we live it on a day-to-day basis are now creeping into sport, where sport deserves special consideration because of the pressures and the anxieties and the stress and the tension that's involved in sport.
Well, John Arlott or any other poet couldn't have put it any better.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you very much indeed, John. John Norman there watching England against South Africa at Lord's. Now, let's take some calls because a lot of people have got some good ideas about how we should be settling this rugby match. A couple of people on Twitter as well don't seem to be getting it. Yeah. They're saying things like, oh, this is an exhibition game.
Yeah.
It's not
a World Cup final.
Well, I'm sorry, it's a sporting event. It's a massive sporting event. Thousands and thousands of people have gone halfway around the world, or almost all the way around the world, to see it. They should deserve to finally get some kind of result.
Those people who are saying, it's just exhibition, are completely devaluing the whole series. They're saying, well, it's not that important to get a result.
Exactly.
Well, if it's not that important to get a result,
why bother?
You shouldn't have started playing the series in the first place. You're demeaning the whole episode, the whole three test
the whole ball of
series,
wax.
The whole ball of wax, by saying, it's not that important to get a result. No. It is very important in sport to get a result. And if you're saying, well, here's an event that doesn't need a result, it's not an event.
Well, imagine that phrase that you often use. If you're not winning, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
Imagine if you put drawing in there instead.
That's right.
If you're not drawing, you're not trying hard enough.
Yes, exactly.
Hey? Makes no sense. Let's talk to Wayne. Wayne, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Mike. How are you doing?
Very well,
very
sir.
good,
very
Wayne.
well. What's your idea? How can we solve this terrible problem?
Well, there was 2 points. The first point, you said half an hour's extra time.
Yes.
Lads, half an hour's too long. In the World Cup, it was 10 minutes.
Right.
10 minutes each way, starting in 2003.
Right.
And I've got one other point, if I may, boys.
Sure.
Yes.
When Mr. Parry said that Dennis Wise took his child up the stairs for when Chelsea won the League Cup, it was the FA Cup in 2000.
Was it? That's great. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I knew he was waving the cup around. I thought he'd had 3 handles on it, but it was 2.
Maybe you just saw 3 handles.
So much wrong, doesn't he, Mr. Parry? But he's a good man. We like him.
No, Wayne, I don't get anything wrong. It's by degrees that I get things right, OK?
Yeah.
Thank you very
much.
much.
He thinks the FA Cup's got 3 handles, Wayne. It's got 3 handles as far as we're concerned. Yeah. How about this from Adam? He says, didn't you mention the idea that it could end in a draw anyway, Porky?
I did. We had a lady
last night, wasn't it?
A lady last night from, a betting episode we had in the show.
Yes.
And I said, her name was Nicola, and she's a lovely lady.
Yeah, she is.
And a good friend of the station. And I said, Nicola, I'm going to throw this at you now. I said, what about a draw? She said, no, I've got that.
Yeah, they had a book on that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you predicted it in
I
many
did
ways.
predict
You're not having
it,
a bad week, actually. Let's talk to Lewis. Lewis, very good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Lewis?
Well, I was just listening to you guys earlier on and sort of basically all about the Kieran Reid issue with his kids there.
Oh, yeah, with his baby, yeah.
Basically, you were saying, what was he going up there with a kid for?
Yeah.
He had no cup or anything to lift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, the kids weren't there for that reason. The kids were there because he was being presented with his 100th New Zealand Cup.
Yeah, but why, though?
And Lewis, hang on. And you think that child, who was only months old, right, because it was a baby in arms, it was crying, you really think that baby will say in 40 years' time, I remember the day I was in my dad's arms when he received his 100th cap? It was ludicrous. The child should have been back in a nursery or a creche or something.
Did you take your baby to work, Lewis?
Yeah, but you were saying that he had nothing to celebrate at the end of it. Well, it wasn't for that reason.
But, I mean, you celebrate things at work. You don't take your kids along, do you?
Well, everybody does it, don't they, with the kids?
They don't.
When was the last time you took your kid to work to have a chat with the boss?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 40 years' time when that kid actually makes a statement, whether they should have been there or not. But He was there for a reason.
My belief is that child was probably psychologically damaged because the only instincts a little baby has is noise and sounds around it, flashing and all that. That could be a disturbed child. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're the expert, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
Porky's big expert on kids. Lewis, thank you very much for your call. We'll take all your calls as well. 08717 223344. I still think my idea is the best one, to have a guy running at the posts and having some other player trying to stop him. Yeah, that would be the way to settle it.
Somebody else has suggested, penalty kicks, but blindfolded. So we turn it in then to, what was that crazy show that was
show?
Where everybody had to sort of throw water buckets at each other. It's a knockout. It's a knockout.
Oh, yeah, that was awful. Let's not go down that road. This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. Got loads and loads of tweets and a very, very good text to read out to you as well. You can tweet us, of course, at the Two Mics. Here's one from Gumbo in Billericay. He says, golden score should be used to end the game. It's the most exciting finish and is very tense. Is that like golden goal? So like the first team to score anything
I think
wins the
that's
game?
Yeah, I think it is.
Because they do that in American football as well, the NFL,
they do.
which I think is quite good.
Yep.
All right, let's talk to James, who is calling in on 08717 223344. James, very good morning to you. Afternoon, I should say.
Afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. I mean, I'd accept nothing less from someone like Mike Parry, who's only good for opening doors for legends like Cantona.
Yes, that's a very harsh thing to say.
Yeah, I was the chosen one on that day. I was the chosen one. Yes, please go on.
You were, but you're talking about a Test series, not a World Cup final. I mean, it's probably one of the best enthralling sporting occasions of the summer that nobody can say they weren't excited about watching for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, but everybody's saying they were not excited about the way it ended. Even the players are upset about it.
Well, I'm not saying it, so it can't be everybody.
Well, everyone except you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Do you not believe in competition, and supreme competition has to have a winner?
No. Well, like the Ashes. The Ashes doesn't have that.
No, but the Ashes, as we know, as John Norman explained,
by the team who had it.
If you draw, you retain the Ashes. That means you haven't lost them. Now, that is not the case. That is not the case in this series.
We haven't played them for a number of years because there's more people you play in the Lions tour. But I think it was a phenomenal way. And listen, we were 2 minutes from losing it.
So you're happy with the draw, eh?
Well, 2 minutes from losing it against the best team in the last 8 years. I'm very happy.
So you're running around town this afternoon going, we got a draw! Woo, woo, woo! We got a draw! It's fantastic!
I'm a huge rugby fan. I'm a huge United fan. But the point is, I'm happy for a sporting fan to watch exciting sport. And I thought the Lions did very well. And you probably
hang on, James. I don't know if you've got children, have you?
Yeah, I've got 3.
3, right. And your children go up to you and they say, Daddy, those Lions and those All Blacks, who's the better of them after all this competition? Who's won? What do you say?
My son's only interested in Lukaku signing for United. He's not interested in the Lions. He's only focusing on United. But the point being is...
You're avoiding the question, James.
Yes, very, very true. So answer the question.
Okay, I think they've enjoyed this. If they're old enough, one of them is, he's enjoyed a very good sporting spectacle.
Yeah, but what do you tell them about who's better? That's the question.
Yeah. I'd say it's an equal because it's true.
So nobody's better.
So nobody's better.
No. So I tell you what. When your lad sees Lukaku sign for Manchester United, which may happen, I'm not certain it's going to happen, but it looks like it's going to happen. And Lukaku plays in the cup final for Manchester United against Everton, and at the end it's a 2-2 draw. And all the players shake hands, and the two captains go up to the royal box, and they hold the cup up jointly. What do you tell your children then? It's no longer sport; it's compromise.
In football, Whiteside in 85, right out in 95. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen because football doesn't allow it to happen, James. I think you're a very troubled man, to be honest.
I think you're troubled.
Thank you very much for calling in, and good luck with the kids as well.
Yeah.
We'll take more calls. How about this from a couple of people from on Twitter? Graham says, how about a tug of war to decide?
Yeah.
And Marky, I like this one, an actual lion versus an actual kiwi to settle the game.
Another great one here. What about Warburton versus Reese in a...
Reese? The guy that does our show?
No. What's
Reese, the guy that's setting up the show?
What's his name? Reed, that's right.
Well, they have to put the baby down.
Yeah, Warburton,
or he has to hold the baby.
And Reed would have to put the baby down to an arm wrestle across a table in the middle of the pitch at the end of the game.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah,
or a sprint.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Andy. Hello, Andy. Andy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, yes.
Yeah,
speak up, Andy. What would you like to say?
I just want to say there's
kind of clue in the title. It's a 3-test series.
Yeah.
It's called a test.
Yes.
And now it's after 3 games. It's all square. I think that's a fantastic
what does
competition.
test?
It's not a cup final.
Andy, what does test mean to you? Normally, when you have a test, you either pass it or fail it. Neither one of these teams has done either of those things.
No, I think it's been a fantastic competition. Yeah, it's a bit anticlimactic, but it's a test series. It's not a knockout competition.
Yeah, but it should have a sporting...
Of course it should.
It's a sporting event. It should have an end result, surely.
Well, I think the end result is what a fantastic competition it has been, and it's at the end of 3 games. You can't separate the teams. You know, I think it's just a different set of rules than a cup competition.
Are you one of these people that thinks that the taking part is as important as the winning?
No, I think it's a test series, and the clue in the title is a test.
Well,
after 3 games...
And Andy,
I don't know what all this clue in the title
No,
is.
you sound to me like the sort of guy who would like to see your children's sports day banned in case the child who loses the 100-metre or 50-metre sprint suddenly bursts into tears because they haven't won. That's the sort of guy you are, isn't it?
Okay. No, it isn't. What happens if it was a dead heat, like in a horse race or a 100-metre sprint? If it's a dead heat, it's a dead heat, isn't it?
That would be a dead heat in a one-on-one situation involving 2 individuals. This involved 2 nations. This involved actually more than 2 nations. It involved a lot of nations, and there's no result. And the end conclusion to this is it's a worthless competition if you don't have a winner.
No, I disagree.
No, I don't.
At all. I think
Well, of course you don't disagree with yourself.
We agree to disagree.
Well, Andy, listen,
Yeah.
appreciate your call. Thank you very much indeed. You don't need to start abusing people like that just because they don't agree with you. Let's talk to Phil, who's up in South Wales, actually. Hello, Phil.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, very
all
well,
right,
Phil.
Phil.
What would you like to say, Phil?
Well, first of all, Mr. Parry, calm down. We know Mr. Lukaku is gone from Everton.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yes,
but
well,
listen,
best of luck to him in his
He's
future
put
career.
75 million in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Look at it like this. It's a victory for the Lions.
Is it?
A draw with of course it is. A draw against the Kiwis in their own backyard.
No, it's not.
They're not happy.
No, they're not happy.
Not happy.
But we're listening to Sam Warburton after. But hang on, Phil. Listen to Sam Warburton after the game. He's not happy either.
Yeah.
He is clearly displeased that they could not. I think he'd rather have lost than get a draw.
He called it anticlimax. The thing is, Phil, at any sporting occasion, at the end of it, you either feel overwhelmed or you feel suicidally depressed, because that depends on whether your team's won or lost. But nobody who's been down there in New Zealand feels anything like that. They just feel cheated.
No, you've got to look at it technical, because sport is technical as well. I mean, as well, you know. I mean, but with rugby, this is different. And you go to Kiwi land and you win out there. I know it's a draw, but technically, we've won.
No, you haven't.
The Lions win.
That's rubbish. What do you mean technically you've won? How can you win when you haven't won?
No, listen. Let me tell you. You go out to the Kiwi land and you give them
It's
a
called
game
New Zealand,
like that.
by the way.
Yeah,
They're not happy.
Yeah, Phil, may I just suggest Phil, you're either Welsh or you've been drinking rather heavily over breakfast.
No, you know what it is? You know what it might be?
What?
It might be that he's a Corbyn supporter from South Wales, because Corbyn said he won he said he won the election, but he didn't as well.
Don't bring politics into football. Nothing to do with football.
Oh, so everything's got to do with football.
Oh,
We're
by
not
the way, Mr. Parry.
Yeah.
At least he didn't go to Chelsea. You know, I mean, that's one good thing.
Now, listen, Phil, we're trying to ban Everton from this show today. We did so much of it last night.
Believe me, Phil, when you leave Everton, you ain't going nowhere, so I don't care where he's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've got many more calls to take. 08717 22 3344. Let's hear from Luke. Luke, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi there.
Luke.
I was going to touch on the golden goal kind of situation.
Right. How would that work in rugby then?
Well, once it gets to 80 minutes, next score wins.
Right. Any score?
You know, you carry on playing until somebody scores.
Right.
Now, I think this is great because
and then in
go on.
And then in Test cricket, you could, if it's tight at the end of the Test series, 1 over each. Whoever has the most amount of runs from that over wins.
I think this is a great idea because the easiest way to score in rugby, you know, in a snap sort of opportunity, is the drop kick.
Drop
isn't
goal,
it?
yeah.
The drop goal.
Well, somebody suggested having a drop goal competition as well.
Well, you see, brilliant. I would go for that as well. You've got to sort it out.
Well, Luke, now, because we've had a few people on who have said, you know, we like the idea of the draw because it's not a game that needs to end in a victory.
Yeah.
But I mean, are there rugby fans who would feel cheated if, for example, they they lost as a result of the golden goal?
No, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I think everybody knows that if the game's been fair and it's been even till the end of the 80 minutes,
right,
whoever takes the next point has the right to win.
Right. I agree with that. As long as everybody knows what's going on, I think that's very, very interesting. I think we've hit on something here, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, I think so.
I think with people, apart from a couple of oddballs who quite like the idea that a draw is actually the same as a win,
yes,
I think we've won everybody over.
I think we have.
This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. Richie says this: add the points from the 3 matches together, and the team with the most points wins the series.
Yeah, I like that.
That would work. Well, that would be the All Blacks, then, wouldn't it? Because they won the first game by 15.
That's right.
Lost the second game by 3.
That's right.
And the rest was even.
Yeah, and they deserve to take the series. Because that's one of the things, by the way, which people are raised in tennis, as it's Wimbledon week, that you can actually win a 5-set match in tennis.
Yeah.
But not be the person who's won the most games within those 5 sets.
True.
You know, if one set becomes 6-love, but then you win the next one 6-4, you're actually winning in negative number of games that you've won.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still, in the end, are the victor because you're the one that won the most sets in the end.
Yeah, you're the victor because you've won according to the structure of the scoring system.
Yes.
But nevertheless, your opponent might have won more games than you.
Sure. Gary is a Manchester City fan in Cheshire. Let's see what he's got to say. Gary, very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm in my car, and I was just listening to the discussions about the game today ending in a draw.
Yeah.
I know what I'd rather do. I'd rather watch that for 80 minutes than watch a test match in cricket for 5 days. A load of blokes stood in the field trying to catch the ball. And waste 5 days of my life watching that.
Well, I mean, that's just a personal preference, Gary. You know, cricket aficionados, they love the 5-day game, and they could sit there all day sipping beer and watching Geoffrey Boycott stroke the ball back to the bowler. That's just the way they are, and you have to respect them for it.
But that can end in a draw after. So if they can't get it right after 5 days, what chance have we got?
Yeah, you're right. Except that the series won't end in a draw, will it?
Well, I mean, if it does end in a draw,
it can end in a draw.
Also, if it does end in a draw,
a test match can end in a draw.
A test match series can end in a draw. You're absolutely right, but it doesn't happen once every 12 years.
Right, it can end in a draw, so we can waste 20 days of our lives or whatever it is, and it ends in a draw.
No, but no, you don't understand.
Well, you're the one that's saying it's a waste of your life.
No, within those days, and you get victories at a regular point within that Test series, right? They are winning and losing as they go along.
2 teams that have won a game.
Hey?
In this Test series, we've had 2 teams that have won a game.
Yeah, but hang on. But Gary, here's the thing: cricket is a sport which quite often results in a draw, right?
Yes.
People are quite happy to watch the spectacle, as Mike was saying, of the slow, the ball being rolled out, the thwack of leather on willow, having a couple of beers behind the pavilion, all of that stuff.
And a draw
right?
is an accepted result.
And a draw is a relatively normal result in cricket. However, in rugby, because of the World Cup, for example, you will know, and because of the Aviva Premiership and all the rest of it, it does not end in draws because rugby is not a game that's supposed to end in a draw. And if you're playing in a series, I don't care whether it's a test series or a friendly series, it has to end in a win, surely.
Exactly.
Right. I'm a spectator sport. How many Lions fans were in New Zealand for the game?
About 10,000.
No, I think it was about 20,000, wasn't it?
About 10,000, I think, for this one, but 20,000 have travelled there altogether.
I don't think you'll get 20,000 travelling down under to watch a test match in cricket, do you?
I think you'll get
I
think you'll get a lot of people travelling down to watch the Ashes in Australia, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get 20,000 for an 80-minute game.
I think you would. But, Gary, I think you must have a personality flaw to come on to talk to us about trying to defend the institution of drawing and not winning means that you yourself are a loser in life, OK?
I want to see winners. I'd like to see winners. But at the end of the day, I'd rather see 15 blokes battling blood, sweat and tears doing that for 80 minutes than watch 11 blokes stood in the field trying to catch a bit of leather.
Well, that's just like saying you don't like watching people playing lacrosse.
I'd rather be thrown into a fire than drowned.
Exactly.
I mean, what's the point? It's time for us to speak to Eleanor Mills, editorial director at the Sunday Times, to find out what's going on in her world. Eleanor, very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
Yeah,
very well.
Are you enjoying Wimbledon fortnight?
I have been a lot. I'm actually camping down on the Ridgeway in Oxfordshire at the moment.
Oh, really?
Camping?
Yeah.
My goodness, you get around. Is it, I imagine it's more glamping with you, isn't it?
It's a bit of glamping. It's a friend's birthday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
excellent.
You're the sort of lady we would expect to see in the Royal Box at Wimbledon, you see, but I suppose you save that for the second week.
I do that too, yeah.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Now then, coming up with your wonderful newspaper tomorrow, Game of Thrones. I mean, what more can you say about Game of Thrones? Tell us about that.
Well, we've got the historian Dan Jones, who's an expert on medieval period and has also advised the production company who make Game of Thrones, talking about the real history that's based on, because we think it's all kind of dragons and White Walkers and all that kind of thing, but actually it's like a medley of history's greatest hits. Yeah. And so he's outlining all the, there was the Red Wedding where lots of people got killed, and that's based on some, real Scottish history. So he's drawn some really fun parallels between where all those characters and tropes come from.
Are you a great fan of the programme?
I have to say I am.
Yeah.
I've watched it right from the beginning. My husband's always been a massive fan of the books.
Right.
So I got addicted very early on.
I can't understand.
I've never seen it.
No, I haven't either. I can't understand how they merge what you've just said. Great medieval history, of which I'm a bit of a student myself, right? Yeah. And then fantastical animals, creatures, dragons,
beasts,
all this
mythical creatures.
Where do they all come? I don't know how. I know it's the world's most popular TV series, but how do people get their head around the myth and the reality?
Well, I'm usually really dubious about fantasy, but I think the characters are so good. And also, what Dan Jones argues, and I think a lot of historians agree, is that it does have that ring of truth because at any point, anyone can die. Yeah. It completely goes against all the usual conventions of TV drama. They kill off the kind of main characters constantly. So there really is a sense of kind of threat and massive reversals of fortune.
Oh, right.
And that's what makes it so good. It does have a kind of reality to it.
Okay.
Now, Porky is embarking on the purchase of a new car. I suspect he won't possibly be getting the 2.5 million Bugatti that Jeremy Clarkson's driving this weekend.
Yes, well, it's an amazing piece. Clarkson had never driven the Bugatti Chiron before. Yeah. We got it out to him in Italy, and he's written a really hilarious kind of extra-length Clarkson review of this car, which he drives at about 240 miles an hour around. It was a closed road in France. Right. Yeah. But he describes all the kind of the people behind him in their really souped-up sports cars, just kind of their manhoods wilting as his car zooms off into the distance. So it's really good fun.
It must be terrifying, though, for you guys to actually have to take possession of a car that's worth that much money, that something awful would happen to it.
Yeah, well, particularly with Clarkson, because he's a lovely chap, but he's not always the most reliable about picking up things like cars because of his filming schedule and stuff. So the poor guy who has to supply him with cars really has his work cut out. Yeah, and also all over the world because he travels so much. So it's quite a logistical challenge getting one to him in the middle of France.
That's right. And when his review comes in, Eleanor, and you're editing your paper, I bet you're biting your nails just in case Jeremy, because of the maverick he is, says 2.5 million rubbish.
Yeah, no, well, he's quite capable of doing that. That's why people love him so much.
Exactly.
But actually, he thinks this. He calls this car an affront to God.
Oh, I see. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So he
really loves it.
Clearly on the up there. Yeah.
Talking of affronts to God, you've got a big piece on Stalin as well.
Yes.
Yes, well, Simon Sebag Montefiore, we've got a bit of a history special, and he's written a new novel, which is all based on, he was a biographer of Stalin, and he was saying he felt a lot closer to Stalin while writing it as fiction. He really felt like he got inside his head. So anyone who's really into a bit of grim, kind of gulagery and kind of psycho,
well, I was about to say,
power games and things like that.
How do you get inside the head of one of the world's greatest ever mass murderers, if you can call a mass murderer a great person? But I mean,
I know. It wouldn't be my cup of tea, but Sebag has spent years, like 20 years, immersing himself in kind of gulag studies and Stalin, and I think is particularly obsessed with those kind of minds and how people become like that and what they do and how they wield power.
That's right. A day in the life of Ivan Denisovich.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess outside of the magazine, there'll be plenty of fly on the wall type stuff about Mr. Putin's meeting with Mr. Trump.
Well, yeah, I really hope so. I mean, that's all been completely gripping. Yeah. But the stories today that, Trump says, yes, Putin never interfered with the American election. Like, well, he would say that, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not exactly, the most rigorous of questioning he's put him under, is it? Did you interfere in the American election? No. Okay, great. No. Thank you.
Oh, well done. We've cleared that one up then. And and who is this week's candidate to topple Theresa May as Prime Minister?
Oh, yeah, last week it was Stephen Hammond, wasn't it? I don't know quite where it's gone this week.
David Davis, probably, I would imagine.
Well, they're all kind of angling. It's like Game of Thrones, isn't it? But within
ferret in a sack.
Yeah, they're all plotting.
Absolutely, but they don't dare quite kill her off because then they're really in trouble. Then
exactly with the last opinion poll showing Mr. Corbyn in the lead. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, listen, Eleanor, enjoy the glamping weekend.
Yes.
And we'll speak to you next week.
Indeed.
Okay, nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye. Eleanor Mills there, editorial director for the Sunday Times. Did you see, by the way, I put this tweet out on this yesterday, I think it was. Jeremy Corbyn was asked about Love Island.
Yeah,
and he
right,
I mean, he's got such a common touch now, this guy, that he's completely just kicking Theresa May around the building because he actually then endorsed somebody for Love Island.
He did.
Said, you better vote for Marcel.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, I've never watched it either.
Well, I've seen it once, and I might be in the next Porky Vision review.
Oh, it should be.
Yeah,
I'll look forward to that.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky, the Addams Family. Their house is a museum. When people come to see them, they really are a scream. The Addams Family.
Now, I remember the Addams Family tune, and that doesn't sound anything like it.
Well, the thing is, there was a TV version, wasn't there, years and years ago?
There was.
When we were kids, and it was a bit tighter than that one. But then they decided to put it on the big screen, and it starred Angelica Houston.
It did.
Who was, what was the name of the leading woman character with the black hair and all that?
I can't remember.
Whatever, But anyway, a very sinister character.
Yeah.
And
well, it wasn't that sinister. I mean, it was a comedy, wasn't it?
Well, I suppose it was, but I mean, it always made me feel
Morticia Addams.
Morticia, that's right, yeah. Anyway, Angelica Houston, who's a very famous Hollywood star, is 66 today.
Really?
And I think the long-time lover of Jack Nicholson, wasn't she?
She was indeed. In fact, apparently she only left Jack Nicholson because he was supposed to have fathered a child with that woman, Rebecca Broussard.
Yes, that's right.
And that was why it all kind of split up.
That's
She's always had a thing for older men, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Apparently when she was 18, she started dating a photographer, Bob Richardson.
Yes.
Who was 23 years older than her.
Really?
Yeah.
God, blimey, that's odd. And she was the daughter of Houston.
John Houston,
the legendary Hollywood director, that's right. So, not a woman to be messed around with.
Not a woman to be messed around with. I haven't seen her in anything recently, particularly.
No, I haven't either. I think she's one of those who went and faded,
Apparently she's become quite a political activist.
Has she? Well, they all do, don't they?
She's involved in the Burmese situation.
The Burmese,
the US campaign for Burma.
Yeah, okay,
democracy for Aung San Suu Kyi.
Oh, I'm big on that one as well. I'm big on that one, yeah. Now then, this morning...
What have you done for Burma lately? What have you done for Burma
Let's hear it for Burma, that's what I say. Right.
It doesn't involve going to the local Burmese restaurant.
Yeah. Now then, what I want to tell you about is that this morning on the way into the office, of course, I decided to go and watch the test match.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And
Where did you choose as a venue for that?
Well, the Wellington pub, which is outside the back of Waterloo Station.
Yeah.
It was, of course...
It's a grossy pub, that, isn't it?
Well, I think that's a little bit unfair, but I mean...
I don't think it's unfair at all.
It was a non-bladderation situation,
What do you mean you weren't drinking?
No, I went there...
Are you absolutely sure?
Yeah, I just went there for a bit of breakfast,
I
that's
see.
all.
Right.
And there were a group of very nice chaps there, who all,
They'd all vouch for your teetotal behaviour, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We got into the chatter, and I said I'd give them a quick mention, when I got round to TalkSport Tower. I don't know what their names were.
You don't know what their names were?
They were...
So if you were in the Wellington this morning with Porky... not drinking, but watching the rugby, by all means, give us a call.
Sure. Now then, when I was in there, this is what the strange thing is. You've been to places, and sometimes, I'm talking about pubs and restaurants, you see a plaque on the wall saying, this was where Liam and Noel Gallagher played their first gig before they became Oasis. And there's one down...
this is where Charles Dickens wrote one of his great opuses.
Yeah, there's a pub I go to in Claygate, and I can't even remember the name of it now, but there's a room at the back, and it says this is where Frank Bruno had his first amateur fight as a 14-year-old schoolboy and all this kind of stuff,
Right.
Well, anyway, going to Wellington, it's bizarre. We all know about the Great Train Robbery, right?
Yes.
And when all the Great Train robbers were sentenced and then they all came out, they all lived various lives. Yeah. But the guy called Buster... What was his name? Buster...
Wasn't
not
Buster
Keaton.
Crabbe?
Edwards. Buster Edwards.
Oh, he was the guy that Phil Collins played in the film,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Buster. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. So what happens is he sets up a flower stall at the back of Waterloo Station.
Right.
And he sold flowers. But he always went across the road at lunchtime for a few pints in the Wellington to meet, quotes, old cohorts.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Members of the underworld.
Yeah, underworld and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I was amazed, in between, one stoppage in the game this morning to see this plaque on the wall.
Right.
And I thought, what
is
is
it? Like a blue plaque, then? Is it
no,
like proper...
it's in a frame.
Oh, okay.
It's in a frame, and it's got a picture of old Buster there, right?
Yeah.
And but it's got the strangest post I've ever seen, and it says this. It says, Buster Edwards, born Ronald Christopher Edwards, 27th of January, 1931. A British criminal who was a member of the gang that committed the Great Train Robbery. Edward, 63, was found by his brother Terence hanging from a steel girder inside a lock-up garage in Lambeth in London.
Right.
He is believed...
Cheery.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely cheery. He is believed to have committed suicide. But this is the bit that amuses me. At Edward's inquest, a panel recorded an open verdict based on testimony that the deceased was too intoxicated to form an intent to kill himself.
Right.
We can tell you he had been drinking in the Wellington that day.
They're just claiming this, are they? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, prior to his suspected suicide.
That's horrendous.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, it'd be one thing to say he was a regular drinker at this particular establishment, but to say that actually this is where he got smashed before he found himself hanging from a rope. That's awful.
This is where he got completely bladdered out of his head.
Yeah.
And then went off to some... It's all a very sad story. Went off to some garage in Brixton and hanged himself. But the proud boast of the Wellington is, we made sure he was tanked up when he left here.
I mean, whatever happened to drink responsibly
Exactly.
and, not serving people who were too drunk to know what they were doing? That's shocking, isn't it?
Anyway, I put that picture out on Twitter because I found it so odd.
Absolutely right.
What an extraordinary claim.
Indeed. Now, Matt says this, Angelica Houston used to scare me when I was a kid. She played the Grand High Witch in The Witches.
Oh, really?
Great actress. Remember The Witches? I think that was the three. Was it Angelica Houston and Cher?
Yeah, I could have been.
One other.
Yeah.
I think it might have been... the woman from Fatal Attraction.
They all specialise in long dark hair, didn't they? Yeah.
Now, I've got a great picture here of the daughter of Mark Shaw, whose name is Mia. She's 11 years old, right? He says, please say a happy birthday to my daughter, Mia, who's 11 today, already a massive fan of yours and Everton. Oh. And he then says, hashtag Porky Tribe. Now, look, she's wearing a Two Mikes T-shirt.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Which we both signed, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And she's clutching in her hot little hand a packet of Porky Scratchers.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Isn't that amazing?
What's the young lady's name?
Mia.
Well, Mia, it's so lovely to make your acquaintance. And is it 11 today?
Pardon?
Is it 11 today?
It's 11 today, yes.
Have a very, very happy birthday, my dear. I don't know whether you've taken your 11 plus or not, but you look like a very bright individual to me, so I think you're going to have a great life, and you've started on the right foot. The Two Mikes T-shirt, the Porky Scratchings in your hand, you're a girl who knows where she's going in life.
It can only go upwards and onwards, as we used to say.
Yeah.
Chris says, Corbyn knowing all about Love Island has made him go down in my estimation even more, and I didn't think that was possible.
No, I saw Love Island, I have to say. I expected a load of sort of dimbos, to be mumbling and all that. They're actually individually quite intelligent. But all they do is sit around in swimming costumes and talk to each other
about somebody else is on the show.
About who somebody else fancies.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember when you were about 14 or 15, you go to these parties where your parents thought you were only drinking Coca-Cola, but the tins of Coca-Cola were full of vodka and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, I didn't really do too many of those
I did a lot of
I know you did a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
what would happen is somebody would always saunter up to you, a rather good-looking girl, and you thought, I'm on here, but she really sauntered up to you, was that her rather... uglier looking friend,
Dowdy,
who was on the other side of the room, had pushed her over.
Did you ever worry that this was always happening to you?
Well, yeah, I did a bit, but would push him over and say, go and ask him if he'll go out with me. Yeah. Everybody had to be going out with somebody, or else you're a non-person.
Oh, it was a terrible sort of scandalous scenario about nothing, right? Yeah. Well, I've been sort of unknowingly hooked into all this because my daughter tells me that everyone that she knows is watching Love Island. Yes. And she hasn't watched it. Right, so she started watching it this week. Right. And has apparently been completely hooked. So she's watching it from the beginning. Right. Now on, ITV Player or whatever. Yes. Yeah. And she's now obsessed with it. Well. And apparently everyone that she knows who's in their 20s is watching it.
Is watching Love Island, yeah. Well, I mean, I read that in one episode a couple of weeks ago, there were 3 independent incidents of live sexual conduct within
the show.
It's a family show,
this,
It is a family show, but that's what I'm saying.
Isn't that some kind of law again? Isn't that public lewdness?
Well, I would say it was. Now, it's on ITV2.
Is it?
And what happens sometimes is a programme comes on a small budget or something like that.
There seems to be an awful lot of it as well.
Yeah, and bang, it explodes. And so it could be the making of a TV station.
I bet you our mate Ben is upset that it's not on his channel. It's the kind of thing he should have come up with on Channel 5.
Yeah, Ben, the controller of Channel 5, who spent the whole of the interview, we went to see him and we spent half an hour with him, and he was walking around short, no shoes, and a T-shirt that looked like it needed a wash, and telling us how
he said, if I could put Big Brother on 24 hours a day, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and then he rather unkindly said, didn't he, just made a programme with Eamon Holmes, which was a complete waste of time.
We shouldn't really share these kind of indiscretions.
Well, no, but I mean, Ben was rambling on about all sorts of things, and then he said, by the way, does anybody know what it costs to get a new tooth because I've got toothache. And I said, well, I've just had two put in, Ben, and they cost £6,000. He said, £6,000. He said, that sounds about right.
Very strange man.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics 1 Minute Moan coming up very shortly. Stephen says this on Twitter. He says there are pubs scattered up and down the country with plaques saying Porky Parry was bladderated here.
What? Well, I don't think so.
I like Buster Edwards. And Nick says Porky must have paid people to say he wasn't on the bladderation train with some of the rubbish he spouts.
No.
That's a bit harsh.
Yes,
what about this one from Jason, who says the Two Mics dysfunctional family? Gobby half-bakes with personality flaws. Don't mention Uncle Tony.
Really?
Who's Uncle Tony?
I've no idea. I don't have an Uncle Tony.
No.
In fact, I haven't got any uncles.
Haven't you?
No.
How come?
I haven't got any relatives, actually, apart from...
You haven't got any relatives?
No.
What do you mean you haven't got any relatives?
Well, I've got two sisters and a mother, and that's it. And no.
How can you not have any relatives?
And a niece and a nephew, and that's it.
That's relatives, isn't it?
Yeah, but I haven't got any extended family.
Really?
No, I never met any of my grandparents.
I thought you said you had that mad auntie, didn't you say you had
that
a
was
mad
Auntie
auntie?
Doreen.
Yeah.
But she wasn't a blood relative.
Oh, right.
She was the
just
wife
said it popped round.
of one of my father's friends.
Oh, I see.
Who was a psychiatrist.
Right.
But he was more mad than most of the patients he treated.
Yeah, well, it can have
and he
that
married
effect
a
on you.
woman who was more mad than him.
Was she one of his patients, you think?
No, I think she was like a fellow student at the psychiatric hospital that they trained at, or something like that, you know.
But so what, your father and mother didn't have brothers and sisters, so you didn't have uncles and aunts or anything?
My father didn't have any brothers or sisters. My mother had a sister, but it was post-war.
Yeah.
And a lot of families got dispersed, and they
Yeah.
just sort of didn't keep in touch with each other, you know.
Yeah, well, my dad had a brother who disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yeah, he went to... he was in the Air Sea Rescue during the war.
Yeah.
And he got sent out to the Far East. And he
Never
was
came
operating, apparently, sort of helicopter rescue or something.
Right.
Around about Sri Lanka, Burma, that kind of area.
Yes.
And he came back once during the war on leave. And then he went back out again, and nobody ever heard from him again. And he was never reported missing.
He was never traced.
He was never traced. He was never put down as missing in action.
God,
his body was never discovered. He was never killed in action or anything like that. Nobody knows what happened.
Yeah, that's very sad. But a lot of that happened after the Second World War. You know, people displaced and all that kind of stuff. You know?
Strange.
Yeah, very strange.
Very strange indeed.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready with a 1 minute moan?
I'll let you go first.
I think we should start it off with this. Are you ready to give the old countdown?
I'm ready to give the countdown. Is the man with the clock ready? He's ready. 3, 2, 1, clock.
Now, as you know, I was meeting Mark Donaldson last night, an old friend of ours who occasionally comes on the show. He's covering Wimbledon at the moment for ESPN, right?
Yes.
Now, he was on his way from Wimbledon to here, and I was going to meet him in a bar, and we were going to go for an Indian meal. Now, I went to the Indian restaurant just before he arrived, because I wanted to know what time they were open until, and the guy said, we're open till about 11 o'clock.
Right.
And I said, well, my friend isn't going to get here much before that.
Yeah.
I said, if we get here just after 11, will that be okay? And in one restaurant, the guy said, no, we'll have to give you takeaway. And the other restaurant, they said, well, as long as you're here by about 5 past, that'll be fine. He got there. We got to the first restaurant, 1 minute past 11, right? And I said to the guy, is it all right, table for two? I was here a little while ago.
Yeah.
He said, yes, but you can't have a starter, and you can only have one drink. And I said, are you joking? I said, what sort of place are you running here? Do you want to make any money?
That's a disgrace.
You want to limit what I eat. You want to limit what I drink.
Yes.
You want to have me in here to pay you about 40 or 50 quid.
Yes.
And then you want to throw me out.
Yeah.
That is British hospitality at its absolute worst.
Yeah.
And I think it's a disgrace.
And what was the outcome of the evening?
We went to the second restaurant where they were a little bit nicer.
Okay, and you got some decent service and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We did.
Okay.
But there's a problem in this country still with the service industry.
Yes, that's right.
That's my moan.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Are you ready to do
I'm
one?
ready to go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, clock.
Right, now you may think that you've heard this before, but you haven't. The price of property in this country went down 0.7% last month, okay?
Oh,
now,
so
you may
bothered
think
by
that I'm being self-serving
Yeah,
here
of course you are.
and that I'm only talking about my own service. But don't you realise that if the value of property in this country keeps going down by 0.7%, it's going to drag the economy down with
I've
it.
already won.
It's going to drag the economy down with it. We're all going to end up in in penury because it's very important that we have growth in the economy, and the major sign of growth is the increased value month on month of property. That's the only thing that keeps it going, because that means people get wealthier and fitter. It's wealth creation at its very best.
Nobody can afford to buy property in this
It's wealth
country.
creation at its best. Now, the government has got to be more stable, because what's happening is, if people don't know what's happening in the future, they get dodgy and jittery and they stop buying property. If you stop buying property, property prices stop going up. And if property prices stop going up, nobody's getting wealthy. And if nobody's getting wealthy, nobody's got any money to put into trickle-down economics in the economy, which is the way things work.
Really?
If you don't have property, you can't have people to clean the properties.
Nobody can afford property anymore.
Well, I'm saying...
I've already won. He's already told me halfway through that I've already won.
Rubbish.
It was 17-10.
Yours was a
18-10.
rubbish one. Yours was self-serving.
No, it wasn't.
It was just for you.
Mine was not just for me. It's for all of those people who are mistreated by people in this country who are supposed to be in the service industry and who don't think they're in the service industry. I think they're in the business for themselves.
Mine was...
Yours was, as usual, all about your own money.
No, it wasn't. It was about the wider variations in the economy to try and help everybody, OK?
Is that right?
That's what it was.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, there's no point in us even waiting for the result because, as I say, I've already got it.
I don't believe that.
18-10 to me.
Yeah. Listen, I came across something which is perhaps going to help us on a trip to New York.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to New York, as you know, in September.
September the 16th.
September the 16th.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I think...
Plans are coming together, aren't they?
Plans are coming together. I think we're going to be boarding British Airways Jumbo, heading for America, which,
very good.
Which is I'm glad about because I love going into Kennedy and seeing the British Airways terminal there.
Flying the flag.
Yeah, the only overseas airline that's got a terminal there. So looking forward to all of that. But
absolutely.
What I was going to say to you was I've come across a new plan where you can put a tracker on your suitcase.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a good idea.
Well, exactly. So you know all the problems you have when you get down, where's my case and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's very simple, isn't it? You put a tracker on the suitcase, and when
I suppose if you get to your destination and see that it's gone somewhere completely different, that's not going to make you happy, is it?
Yeah, but you're not going to wait around for 3 hours wondering where's my case.
No,
Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I get that.
And you get there, you get off, you see the sign which says you're on, runway 3 or something like, carousel number 3.
Yeah.
You go to carousel number 3, and the bags that are coming in are from Frankfurt, not London.
Yes.
And you then actually, on your own computer, track it, and you find your bags have gone to Frankfurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So I think that's great. But I tell you what happened in... Riviera, which I'm watching avidly.
Yes.
Do you know my new TV, by the way, my new smart TV?
Yeah.
As soon as I've watched one episode of Riviera, a sign comes up at the end saying downloading episode 5.
Yeah,
and you just watch it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't even have to download it. You can stream it. And it just says next episode starts in 9 seconds or something like that.
It says to me, downloading now, and then it says ready to watch.
Yeah.
And when I've watched that one, it says downloading episode 7.
Yeah, you don't even have to move.
Now, you see, I've got a huge problem here.
Right.
Because in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, I've only watched the first 4 episodes.
Yes.
But because I was intoxicated by watching the next downloaded one on the coast, I've watched 7 down there.
Oh, you watched 7?
Yeah, now I've got to come back.
So when you come back up,
how
are you watching it? Is it on Netflix or no? It's on Sky Atlantic, isn't it?
It's on Sky Atlantic, and I'm watching it by recording it in Stockbroker Belt. Now I'm then stuck, because I'm three episodes ahead of what I've got in Stockbroker Belt.
Can't you just go to episode 8?
No, because I haven't got that available in Stockbroker. Because the telly I've got in Stockbroker Belt isn't.
Well, get another telly.
That's exactly what I've got to do.
You know, you can't have a 19th century television in one room, one house, and a 22nd
well,
century.
It's not exactly 19th century.
But it's not smart.
But anyway, what they did in it, right? What they did in the episode I watched down in on the coast.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of our listeners you can put your hands over your ears if you want, because you may not have seen this. This is in episode 7 or 8, which has not yet been shown on Sky Atlantic on a weekly basis.
So for some people who haven't seen it.
But there's a mad prostitute killer loose in the Riviera.
I see.
Most of the time she's a prostitute, but if somebody gives her a lot of money, she's quite happy to kill one of her clients,
really?
on behalf of, like
Sounds
Russian
like a
gangsters or something
plan,
like that. Yeah, well, anyway. But anyway, she falls foul of having not completed some mission, and the, quotes, pimp guy turns up, the guy who's hired her.
Family show this year.
It's family show. And he knocks her about a bit and then says, what's the problem? And he knocks her about a bit and then... he thinks, and he says to her, don't think you're going to get away from me. You will complete this mission. And she says, oh, OK. And then he pulls out a gun, and she thinks he's going to shoot him. Do you know what he does?
What?
He sticks the gun on her shoulder, and she goes, oh, what are you doing? And he's implanted her with a tracker.
Oh, a tracker?
Yeah.
So it's like
you give your
electronic chip?
Yeah, like you give your dog.
Okay.
And he says, now... you will never be away from me,
so
and you will complete your mission. Otherwise, we'll come in after you.
Find
and they know
my
exactly.
iPhone.
Yeah, and they know exactly where she is.
Yeah,
isn't that amazing? I've been advocating that for years for criminals.
Yeah,
if you let a criminal out on licence, put a chip in his bonce or in his shoulder or something like that. It's only like putting, you can wear a heart pacemaker in your shoulder now, right?
You can.
Well, if you can, then put a tracker in a criminal, or best still, put him under anaesthetic.
There's a lot of criminals to track, though.
Hang on. Best thing to do.
The tennis.
Hang on. Best thing to do is put him under anaesthetic and then chip him, because if you let him know where the chip is, he'll probably take a knife and try and get it out. Yeah. So you should put it on, like somewhere on his body that he doesn't know it is, like on the sole of his feet or something.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics, of course, and we've got another show coming up tomorrow, which we can tell people about. It's from 5 o'clock until 8, I think, isn't it?
5 till 8.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about a great many things on that show.
We certainly are.
Yes, but we can't give too much away.
No, we mustn't give too much away,
Here's one from, where are we? I had a really good one I wanted to read out a minute ago.
Well, don't worry, because I want to tell you about Fred Parry. Did you know that Fred Parry, who was like the greatest tennis player we ever had until Andy Murray came along?
Yes.
Did you realise...
Well, he was the only winner of Wimbledon, I think, wasn't he? Men's singles title before Andy
three,
Murray.
three times on the run.
Yeah.
Terrific guy.
Yeah.
First player to hold all 4 Grand Slam titles at the same time, by the way. Played a pivotal role in Great Britain's domination of the Davis Cup in the mid-30s, OK?
Yes.
But despite his status as a global sports celebrity, Parry was criticised for his ruthless desire to win and was frequently at odds with the amateur tennis authority.
No, I bet he didn't like drawing anybody, did he?
He didn't like drawing at all. He wouldn't set for a draw. He came from, I think it was Lancashire or Yorkshire. I think it was Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And he was an E-bar gum lad. He'd come down Yorkshire. I call a spade,
Indeed.
you know.
Yes.
I talk in language that people can understand, like,
Well, there's muck, there's brass and all that.
Muck, there's brass and all that. Anyway, he won his first Wimbledon title in 1934, OK? His play was faultless, and in barely an hour he swept aside Australian Jack Crawford.
Yes.
And he did a cartwheel to celebrate his straight sets win, which the authorities told him he mustn't do again.
Right.
Followed by a trademark leap over the net to shake his opponent's hand.
Yes.
The authorities said, don't do that again.
I used to do that when I played tennis. Jump
did
over
you?
the net. Yeah, I like doing that.
Rubbish.
It's not rubbish.
Bet you couldn't do it today.
I probably couldn't, no.
Yeah, you couldn't
but I could
jump
do it
over
when I was a teenager.
Yeah, you sure.
I used to play quite a lot of tennis.
Yeah, anyway, he won a replica trophy, a medal, a shopping voucher worth £25. Yeah, he got a shopping voucher worth £25.
Amazing.
And a gold laurel wreath on a silk ribbon. But anyway,
and as you revealed in the Porky quiz yesterday, 2.2 million is what we get now.
That's
what you get for winning Wimbledon.
That's right.
Imagine that shopping
voucher.
Yeah,
and of course he was made a member of the All England Club. Anyway, old Fred was ambitious in 2 directions. Firstly, he wanted to have a lot of sex with a lot of beautiful women.
Yeah.
So he headed for Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And he really did pull the best. Marlene Dietrich.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Dietrich.
Yeah. Threw himself into...
Was he ever married, then? Did he ever marry any of these women?
Yeah, he had a wife. Yeah. He had a wife called Helen.
Oh, right. Did you go with her?
Well, I can't say.
You don't know?
I can't say.
Right.
But Parry threw himself into Los Angeles social world, partying with Errol Flynn.
Yeah,
that was fun, eh?
Yeah, I bet it was.
It was.
Errol Flynn was a legendary character.
He was a legendary character, wasn't it? And the ridiculous stories about Errol Flynn, because he was, sort of...
you know what time we're on, don't you?
Yeah, I know.
You know what time of the day it is, right?
Parry threw himself into Los Angeles social world,
in the afternoon.
partying with Errol Flynn, romancing with Marlene Dietrich, and enjoying a string of dalliances.
I want to be alone.
I want to be
was that
alone.
Greta Garbo, or was that Marlene Dietrich?
Marlene Dietrich. I want to be with Fred. So
15 Love.
Yeah, 15 Love, yeah. So enjoying a string of dalliances with actresses, topped by marriage to starlet Helen Vincent, who became the first of his 4 wives.
Oh, right.
They kept leaving him because he was very active in his social life,
right.
Anyway, the thing is, he won his 3rd Wimbledon in 1936, but then he turned pro.
Yeah.
And so he then travelled the world doing exhibition matches. He was immediately thrown out of the All England Club for becoming a professional.
Yeah.
He was told he was a disgrace.
Ridiculous.
He was told he was a disgrace. Parry was relieved of his honorary membership of the All England Club, and he had to give back the tie that had come with it. Right?
That's mad, isn't it?
And after all the trouble they'd gone to present it to me, he said, as well as being barred from appearing on the courts at Wimbledon, right, or of any affiliated club to the All England clubs, so that, anybody who's a member of the English tennis set.
Like the Hurlingham Club.
That's right. He was barred from all of those as well.
Yeah.
He was then asked to tender his resignation from all the clubs of which he was a member anywhere in Britain, even if they weren't affiliated.
That's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah. And he became, in the tennis world in England, a non-person. Okay.
Shocking.
Yeah. his grievance was palpable. He said, I always had the feeling that I was tolerated but not really wanted.
Yeah.
He returned to Wimbledon 40 years later as part of the BBC commentary team, but he was then 75.
Yeah.
However, in compensation, he'd been smart enough to set up a little business producing tennis shirts, which is now the Fred Perry Empire, and which made him a multi-millionaire.
With the famous logo, yeah, absolutely right. I used to have Fred Perry shirts, so they're still very popular today.
Exactly, yeah.
Super stuff.
Yes.
Now, it's time to go down under.
Okay.
The British and Irish Lions Tour of New Zealand 2017 on Talk Sport. On location with The Times and The Sunday Times. Quality coverage of the entire Lions Tour from expert writers and ex-players.
Now, it was, of course, the final test this morning. It was live on Talk Sport. The British and Irish Lions against the All Blacks. It all ended in a draw. We said rather unsatisfactorily. Here to dissect the performance is Owen Slott, Chief Rugby Correspondent, of course, from The Times. Owen, a very good afternoon to you.
Hey, how you going?
Yeah, very well indeed.
Very well, mate, thank you.
We've been talking quite a lot about this, obviously, since the final whistle, and it's all been a bit underwhelming, I think, is our view of the finish.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? If you said at the start that they were going to get a 1-1 tied series, you think, wow, that was an amazing achievement by the Lions. The way the game panned out today, it was an absolute epic of a game. It was fantastic, and personally, I think the idea that after 6 weeks and 3 Test matches, you still can't separate the Lions from the All Blacks has a sort of a magnificent sort of sporting drama to it. But there is no doubt that when the final whistle went, it's like you just switched off the volume and everything went quiet. No one knew what to make of it. The fans went quiet because no one had won. The players looked at each other. The players we've spoken to afterwards, to a man, have said that they were disappointed because they wanted to win. No one felt good about the draw.
Yeah.
So it's a strange anticlimax. So it's something for the Lions to be so proud of. And yet, it's not what they wanted.
Yeah, Owen, shouldn't the game of rugby, because it's massive around the world, particularly in the countries that we're talking about now, shouldn't they have had a fail-safe sort of operation to make sure a winner was declared at the end of a series, which was anticipated so magnificently by people for 2 or 3 years?
Yes, absolutely, you're right, and I would guess that the first thing that Lions or that World Rugby does tomorrow is write into the clause of the next Lions.
Totally agree.
4 years' time, that if it's a tie after the third test, that they carry on, sudden death or goal.
Absolutely, or kick
10 minutes each way.
Kick penalties, anything you like. But you've explained it brilliantly. There was a sense of loss to everybody involved in this.
Right.
Yeah, and again, I do repeat this point. There shouldn't be. I mean, that's just how everyone felt emotionally at the time.
Yeah.
There is something magnificent about the fact that these two teams could not be split. But at the moment, yes, everyone feels slightly dissatisfied.
Sure. Indeed. OK, well, Owen, thanks very much indeed. And thanks for being with us throughout the series. That was Owen Slott, of course, from The Times, live from Auckland. Pick up your copy of The Times and The Sunday Times during the Lions tour for more quality analysis now that it's actually all over.
The British and Irish Lions Tour of New Zealand 2017 on Talk Sport. On location with The Times and The Sunday Times. Quality coverage of the entire Lions Tour from expert writers and ex-players.
Here's one from Dave who says Fred Perry was born in Stockport.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Stockport. He was a Lancastrian then in those days.
Boy,
yeah, that's right.
Rather than a northern boy. Fred Perry.
That is Stockport is in the north, Mike. I know that you don't know anything about the Britain outside of the M25.
Stockport's in the north.
Stockport's in the north.
It's not in Yorkshire though.
No, but you said rather than a northern boy.
Oh, well, did I? Okay.
Yes, you did.
That's
yes,
because I was distracted. Reading something else here.
Yeah.
Something from Brian who says he was born in Cheshire. Not Yorkshire.
Yeah, well, Stockport now is in Cheshire.
Is it?
It used to be in Lancashire, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. So when you say you know about the north, you actually don't know where Stockport is.
Of course I do.
You seem to have got it wrong.
Of course I do.
It's actually in your home county of Cheshire, where you're from.
No, it says here, I think Porky needs a chip in his bonce, preferably with a remote control and mute button controlled by MG.
Yes.
That would keep him on the straight and narrow. And somebody here trying to give me comfort and succour saying, according to the release figures by Ask Halifax, House prices have risen 2.6% annually. Yeah, that's okay. I know about that. In the last month, they've gone down 0.7%.
Yeah.
I'm on the brink of ruin.
No, you may well be. We haven't actually talked about old Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton because you were sort of crowing, weren't you, last week, saying, see, they're going to give him more of a punishment.
Yeah.
And, of course, they had the meeting,
Yeah.
but they didn't give him any more punishment.
No.
So I'm expecting you to now apologise to me for getting it wrong.
There's a huge, anti-British feeling within Formula One.
Rubbish.
Because we've got all the best teams based in this country. We've got all the best engineers.
What are you talking about?
We've got the best driver, Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Ferrari's based in this country. Red Bull's based in this country.
I think of the teams, I think 9 teams are based in this country around Oxfordshire and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, all around there. And they do a brilliant job because we lead the field. I mean, no country has got a track record of world champions like Britain, going right back to Graham Hill.
I'm sure that's true.
Going right back to...
So then surely, where's the evidence that everybody hates the Brits in Formula 1?
Well, because we're so successful. It's a natural instinct in man in competition to resent and dislike those who are better than you. That's called competitive spirit, And so if they can sort of, just give a odd... nudge of, sort of encouragement here and there to a continental driver. They do.
I don't feel like that at all.
Well, I feel like that.
You feel resentment towards people who are better than you?
No, not at all.
Well,
I admire people. I admire people who are better than me.
You said it's a natural sort of instinct.
Well, it's natural instinct among the herd type mentality. But I don't have herd mentality.
Don't
you know what I mean?
Seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Now, how about this for a story that was tweeted to us by Stu, one of our regular listeners and a guy who's been to many of our shows.
Yeah.
He says, this is his tweet, Liverpool were keen, Chelsea were interested, Juventus are eyeing him up, but Ruben Neves signs for Wolves.
Yeah.
Now, this is a great story, isn't it? Because Ruben Neves
15 million quid?
has come from Porto in a club record deal of around £15 million. Now, there might be more to this story than meets the eye.
Yes.
Because, of course, Jorge Mendes is involved in Porto and is apparently involved to some extent at Wolves, but to such an extent that Wolves had to put out a statement saying that Jorge Mendes is not in charge of recruitment.
He's not running the club.
And he's not running the club.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, he's a man who's very powerful in the football world, isn't he?
Well, he represents Ronaldo, Radamel Falcao,
Jose
Mourinho. That's right, absolutely.
And he's an associate of the people that now own Wolves.
Yeah, that's right. See, there's been a lot of debate this week about the role of agents and all that.
Yeah.
And I had somebody on TalkSport the other day, and I was going to ring in and challenge it, saying, "Oh no, agents are great." I think it was Darren Lewis actually.
Yeah.
He was sitting on the
sports bar,
the sports bar, and Darren was fervently defending the role of agents in football. And I accept some what he said. They have a definite role now with so much money sloshing around. But he tried to make out that there's never been a case of one agent being recognised with one club. Are you mad?
Yeah.
In some cases, like Blackburn and Nottingham Forest,
didn't it?
Yeah. The club could only buy agents, only buy players represented by one agent.
Right.
I mean, that's something that the football authorities actually had to address and get hold of.
Yes.
But most agents act very responsibly, and they do sort the business out, for huge commissions,
and
nevertheless.
And wouldn't you say, without
But there are a lot
fear or
out there
favour,
who are doing a rather an underhanded sort of operation. Yeah.
Well, Jorge Mendes, you'd have to say, I mean, he represents anybody who's Portuguese, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to buy a Portuguese player, or you want to move a Portuguese player, you're more or less likely to have to talk to him.
Yes, absolutely.
At one point or another. And it's almost become like Hollywood became for a while, in the, when
with the right studio.
Yeah, when when Rodgers and Cowan sort of broke up and all these different little talent agencies started up, and they went, well, it's all very well if you want this director, but then you'll have to take this actor, you'll have to take that actress,
that's right.
You'll have to take this producer, and they would package up the whole thing.
Yes.
Which I think is happening in football now, where they're going, right, but if you're going to take this guy, you're going to have to take this other guy over here.
Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, look. Do you know what? Years and years ago, when I used to watch Chester, there were two brothers. And I'm trying to remember what the names are now. One of them was extremely good. They were on Chester's books, and they were twins. Fuller.
Right.
The Fullers, I think
Fuller
they were.
twins,
Paul Fuller and... was it Fuller? I'm not sure. But anyway, one of them was extremely
good.
good.
A guy called Paul Fuller who used to work at the Express.
Yeah, he was actually. He might be him, but he wasn't a footballer. He was just a very hard-working journalist.
Well, you could say that.
Yeah. I mean, he never got anywhere, but he was hard-working.
Yeah.
That's a bit
He was
cruel.
the guy
Sorry, Paul.
that came up to me when I first came back to the Express from America and claimed that it was a no-smoking section.
That's right.
And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you start your no-smoking section over there.
No, but didn't he tell you
over here.
Didn't he tell you? Well, Mike Parry made it
I
a
said,
no-smoking.
who told you it was a no-smoking section? He said, Mike Parry made it a no-smoking section. I said, well, where's he now?
Yeah.
He said, oh, he's gone to New York. I said, yeah, he's gone to New York. He's living in my apartment.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Very funny.
No, that was very funny. Anyway, they were called. One was definitely Paul, and I can't remember the other one was. But anyway, the point of my story is they were twins. Paul was a very talented centre-half and was talked about as a future England captain, so Manchester City bought him. Right.
Yeah.
But the deal was he wasn't going anywhere without his brother.
So he had to take it with him.
So his brother, who was, had 2 left feet.
Yeah, make weight.
Yeah, make weight, yeah. Was sort of taken on. And the guy just never played, he appeared in training.
Were they identical? I mean, was there been a case where you played one by mistake?
Well, no, I don't think they're up to that, because the guy with the 2 left feet could have been beaten by me, let alone, a centre forward like Francis Lee or something like that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the case. Have I told you about my new machine that I've got?
No.
I wanted to tell you about this because I think I might get one for you. It's called the Soothing Sounds Dial. And what you do is, if I get really fraught and stressed out, at home, I lie on the couch.
You get stressed out at home?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, definitely.
Why do you get stressed out at home?
So much to do these days, so much to get sorted,
You've got to learn how to switch off, I think, is what you've got to do.
Well, this is part of my system. What happens is, it's called the Soothing Sounds Dial. And what I do is I lie on the couch with my eyes closed and I put on the Soothing Sounds dial.
Yeah.
And I have a remote control and it has 10 different sounds.
Right.
So 1 minute I can be listening to birdsong, like you get in the morning.
And does it block out all the other noise? I mean, what if there's cars going by?
Well, close the windows. Close the windows.
Oh, okay.
So birdsong, great. Waves lapping onto a beach, which is very, very soothing.
That is soothing, yeah. Does it really sound like that, though, or is it some ersatz level of rubbish?
No, it's very good. The wind whistling through the willows, like through the wind whistling past trees. Yeah.
But does it on a loop or something?
No, you can choose one of 10
but I mean, how long
sounds.
does it play for, though?
It plays until you switch it off.
Really?
It's on a loop of about 30 seconds, and plays it round.
Yeah.
Other sounds are the kookaburra.
The kookaburra?
Yeah, in a field,
That would annoy me, really, more than anything else.
Another
is that
one.
what a kookaburra sounds like?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. And another one is, have you ever seen, I used to see it in Wiltshire when we used to go down there, the hovering the bird that sings, what's it called?
The hovering bird that sings?
Yeah, a nightingale, was it, or something?
I don't know if a nightingale hovers.
Well, there's a bird that hovers over the fields of wheat in...
Really?
I
mean, usually those are birds of prey, because they're looking for, weasels and things to pick up.
No. This is a particular song.
Really?
Songbird. I think it's called a songbird.
songbird?
I think it's a songbird, yeah.
I don't know.
And
what sound does that make, then?
It sings. It goes... cheep, 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 like that, right, And then
Is that what it was? Cheap, cheap, cheap.
Yeah.
How much did you pay for this thing?
No, how much did I pay for it?
Yeah.
I think it was about, not expensive, about 25 quid.
25 quid?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Why don't you just get one of those discs that you can play?
Well, that's too much trouble, isn't it, putting on a disc player and all that kind of stuff. But it's all sorts of natural sounds, from...
I think you're going mad, personally.
No, it's supposed to replicate you. You lie there with your eyes closed, and you have to imagine you're walking through a field, you know what I mean? Like, then through a little wood and all that kind of stuff, and you hear the birds and all that.
And does it help you go to sleep or something?
Well, you don't go to sleep. You just take it in for half an hour, and it just clears your head a bit,
Right,
you know what I mean? Yeah, it's very useful.
Really?
Did
you ever think of getting... Do you remember those... There was a period for a while you could buy those wave machines.
Well, there's a wave thing on here.
Yeah, but this was to look at.
Oh, to look at.
It was like a fish tank.
Yeah.
And you'd put it sort of at the end of your bed or something.
Yeah.
And you'd watch the wave.
Well,
and it would make a wave, and then it would make another wave on back in the other direction.
It sounds great, that, but I mean, I'd get bored with that. What I do love is the start of Poldark when you see the seas crashing in against the Cornish rocks.
Right.
Now, the thing is...
That's a terrible show.
Oh, it's not. It's great.
It's
it's great. But the thing is, people always say, I've wasted my life. You should have gone and lived in Cornwall. The problem is nothing happens in Cornwall. So go there for holiday, watch the crashing waves, but then if you decide to stay there and work there, you get paid like the minimum wage.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and there's no tin mines anymore,
And all these Cornwall people all want like independence. What I say, give them independence. Don't give them any taxes because,
don't give them any more money.
No, exactly.
Well,
they'd get on with it.
Okay, we'll never go to Cornwall. We'll be back, though, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, at 5 o'clock.
To do another show. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The warm-up with the Two Mics on Talk Sport.
Kissing a man without a beard is like eating your chips without salt and vinegar.